This is the last chance, and this is not clickbait, no exaggeration. I will prove it to you. I also looked into what has actually led to this massive correction and how you should react now. You might also have 1 or 2 positions in the red. By the way, I have now looked at this for all currencies, at least the larger ones like Bitcoin. I have checked it for Solana and also for XRP. So also I have news. There is speculation. Maybe some tokens will be burned or something. Now would be the perfect time. Could something happen there? I'll get to that. Yes, and otherwise I would say let's just take a look. Now at the market update, plus the trading setup for today again, I would say that's enough for the intro. We'll see each other afterwards. Now new, uptrend VIP trading, your opportunity to copy the signals of 2 profit traders for free. They managed to grow an account from $4,000 to $30,000 within 2 months. The results in the group are also impressive. All you need for this is a deposit of $100 into your BingX account. You can find all further information below in the description. In summary, we don't need to sugarcoat it. The numbers are dire. Bitcoin at almost $8,000. 8% down, at times just barely below, at a quite critical value of currently 88,300 and some change. I'll get to what that could mean if we really should close like this. Ethereum is dire. XRP is even worse. Solana is severe because there have already been severe corrections in the past few days. Now let's take a look at the reasons why this is happening, because there might be several. At this point, a huge thank you for the support you provide. It's really wild day by day, even in such market phases, but I always try to support you with the most important news. Therefore, at this point, if you want to support my hours of research, my work, and help this channel grow further, and especially now, if you want to push this video explicitly, it's relatively simple. Just leave a free like or feel free to write a comment down here. It boosts the algorithm. And if you're new to the channel now and you're wondering, yeah, okay, and what does this guy even do? Here it is, Crypto News Daily, honest and fact-based. You'll find hype elsewhere, but here you'll also get a trading setup that might help you earn $1 or 2. If you're up for it, then just leave a free subscription now, activate the bell so you don't miss any important information. And now, let's get started. Yes, the topic of tariffs, that's nothing new, but it could definitely fit into the context, which is why especially the traditional markets are reacting this way. Trump apparently gave a speech yesterday where, at least according to Bloomberg, it was mentioned that there are ongoing plans, discussions, or whatever regarding tariffs for Mexico and Canada. And that is likely to certainly cause discontent throughout the entire market, because now even the traditional market doesn't quite know, well, how will things effectively proceed? And that is likely to be the biggest problem at the moment, because fundamentally now, currently we have the NASDAQ, which we can see is really in a downward spiral, and that's the big problem. Everything is interconnected. We have Bitcoin, or rather, first the NASDAQ. It is correcting, as you can already see here, of course not as severely as Bitcoin. Obviously, a larger risk asset means larger movements in the price. As a result, because the NASDAQ is going down, Bitcoin is going down. The altcoins react even more intensely to this because the volume there is much, much smaller. Also, a quick look at the Bitcoin spot ETFs. This supports the picture that I personally suspect from institutional investors. No one really knows right now what will happen politically regarding these tariffs. And then initially there's caution, or rather people prefer to sell before holding any asset that might drop much, much further, possibly slipping into the negative. I can only urge you, even if you're currently stuck in the negative, I wouldn't make any panic sales now. It's not yet all lost, but I will get to the trading setup that should be decisive today. However, there are also reasons now where one might say perhaps the crypto space will react more massively here, aside from the political events. And thus, WINTERMUTE comes into play. At this point, it can be said that Solana will be the most affected. However, Ethereum, for example, was also sold off here. So, yes, the largest assets are definitely affected. I couldn't find anything about Bitcoin for now. So you can see it quite nicely here. WINTERMUTE is a leading global algorithmic trading firm in digital assets. So it already explains everything they do, and the issue we have here, which you can also read about in nicely here because WINTERMUTE is withdrawing 38 million US dollars in Solana. Before, the Solana token's worth 2 billion. US dollars are released. This is the big fear that many out there in the market have now. It is the largest unlock in the history of Solana. And we are talking here on the 1st March. Here you can see it quite nicely. On the 1st March, 11.2 million Solana tokens that are being released into the market. And now there could also be some big whales who might indeed get scared. Now, in these Binance documents, there was talk of $38 million in Solana tokens. That was as of yesterday. If we now take a look at Acrow, then the whole thing looks even worse because here it is already $83 million. But as I said, still they are also still in the wallet, which is already good. They have not been sold. The question is also whether they can even find that much of a buyer's market right now, that they can just flush them out onto the market like that. Who knows? And of course, there remains the hope that this sell-off will finally come to an end, because we don't always want to see everything negatively. And yes, I don't want to spread either FUD or FOMO here. You know this channel, I can tell you that at this point. If you look at the US dollar index in relation to Bitcoin, then it almost looks good again. So it's quite curious right now. Both are falling, meaning Bitcoin and the US dollar. You can also notice how atypical it is, as everything in the market is somehow interacting in ways you wouldn't expect. So I personally would have expected a turnaround for Solana. It hasn't happened yet. We will see what happens next. In any case, it's good. You could perhaps speak of a certain support area right now. All in all, the dollar is currently in an overarching downtrend. And I just want to point out what has happened in the past. Especially if you look at the last phases, the dollar went down and bam, Bitcoin took off. It doesn't have to be a guarantee. However, one might hope that if the dollar's trend continues downwards, and there are several leading voices who are also talking about it and saying the dollar is totally overvalued and currently at a peak, as you can see, it has a pretty high status. Yes, it could continue to go down now. Well, that could be a hope for Bitcoin purely from a technical chart perspective. Before we get to the trading setup, let's briefly return to the SEC, because what they are doing right now is also quite positive. And also briefly on Ripple, because there were a few questions yesterday that I can summarize nicely. So first of all, regarding the SEC, it can be said that the lawsuit against Robinhood was completely dropped. This means the whole issue is moot. Now we can summarize this nicely again because many Ripple supporters are always shouting, wait a minute, and the lawsuit is never dropped and so on. Yes, but the SEC is still doing quite a bit. So what has been decided for crypto since January? Boy, oh boy, Gary Gensler couldn't achieve that in his entire tenure. Sure, he didn't want it either. But if we look at it, SAB 121 was overturned. The Coinbase lawsuit, left alone, that's not entirely correct here. It was announced, but there is no final result yet. At least I don't have a new one. If you have one, feel free to write it in the comments. Binance, the legal dispute, is now suspended until April, and the OpenSea investigation has also been closed. And with Robin, we also have the situation where the lawsuit wasn't even challenged. It was simply completely shelved. So folks, I find that quite positive. In yesterday's comments, two questions came up, which I will now address step by step, because they fit very well into the context. The first is the escrow wallet itself, meaning the one held by Ripple, and the possibility of tokens being burned. So I went deeper into the search. This article is, for example, from January 2024, so not exactly representative. And I can tell you this much, I couldn't find anything current as of now. So if anyone has sources regarding anything being burned, generally speaking, tokens. Burning is nice, but the demand must remain the same. I dare to doubt right now that with these falling prices, the demand is the same as it was a few weeks ago. However, the question also remains how much is being burned. That's pure speculation and relying solely on burning and saying that's why the tokens will rise. Very difficult. So the big question is really how much is being burned, to what extent, when, and what is the demand. And then a price might rise accordingly. The next question I want to address transparently here, discuss and show, and everyone is welcome to share their opinion in the comments. It's about the distribution of Ripple tokens. I have mentioned it several times before. The XRP tokens, in my opinion, are nonsense. Why? There is no minting, there is no staking, a company usually has. So now, currently just under half of all available tokens, and releases them onto the market. However, I have a neutral channel here, so I won't say that it's all completely stupid. The whole thing is set up so that, and now please pay attention, up to 1 billion tokens can be released onto the market per month. However, this does not mean that 1 billion tokens have to be released onto the market every month. So it's not a linear distribution or anything like that. It fluctuates a bit. And you can see this on the one hand here, but on the other hand, you can also simply read the current market reports directly from Ripple. And then you get the corresponding information. I can already say this much. Last year, the maximum was in November, at least according to what I could find out, 470 million tokens that came onto the market in November. And yes, that was the maximum. So we were quite far from a distribution of 1 billion tokens per month, at least so far. Onto the trading setup. So just briefly here, I also consulted Altcoins. I really like using this tool for the reasons I've mentioned before, which I also like to bring up again, because it draws the corresponding chart patterns for you. If anyone is more interested in this topic and wants to get some assistance, they can check the description. You can use this tool completely free of charge. And then there are various memberships ranging from monthly, yearly, or even lifetime access. You can secure a 50% discount on each of these access options. I met the founder of this tool last September in Barcelona at a trade fair, and then I negotiated this deal for the community. In any case, if we take a look now, Bitcoin is now currently at bullish, which I find quite exciting. It was neutral before, so the situation can change quickly, as you can see here with the various indicators. And now let's take another separate look at the chart together. So what can be said is that the RSI, and I will probably repeat myself here, looks pretty good because it is completely low. And by the way, it's exactly the same with Solana. But let's switch over. So as you can see, you can't see anything here, at least nothing below. Yes, of course, down here, there is still an area where one could say it might be targeted. But take a look at this up here. So most of the liquidity, and this is the case with all major tokens. So it doesn't matter whether we're talking about Solana, Ethereum, XRP, etc. It's the same everywhere. All the liquidity was fished out downwards here. And due to the heat map alone, one might now ask when it will finally go upwards. And that will be the first case when this disastrous sell-off is finally over. And here in the daily view, it will be, the whole thing is even much clearer because you can see exactly here. We are currently in the absolutely hot phase as far as Bitcoin is concerned. So if we close this day below 90K, then, it could get nasty. And yes, we should all look at 3:30 p.m. when the traditional markets start. That's also the big risk in the matter. With the NASDAQ and the traditional market, there's a pause. With Bitcoin, it just continues, and this goes in a positive direction with bullish impulses, but also, as we can see here, with corrections. I have specifically marked here this window and this volume area here, because if we should, I've also shared this on X, by the way. If you're not following me there yet, feel free to do so. Check the description. There's the link. In any case, one can say around 87K. If we should fall below that, this trading area was completely uninteresting for most traders. You can also see that here, a smooth breakout upwards, and that's the big fear that many have. We could then fall directly to a value of around 70K. Yes, maybe somewhere around 71, 72. No one can say for sure now. However, if you look at this, we are even below 70K, and that would be an absolute fiasco, because logically it would also drag all other altcoins much further down. But to speak openly and transparently, the danger that exists here, again, briefly on Ethereum, I have drawn it the other way around now. You see here the volume area that would be desirable if we were to target it again, but currently we are miles away from it. We had a beautiful uptrend here. Also, the retest here. You could see that nothing significant happened in terms of volume, a smooth breakout upwards, but unfortunately a counter movement here. And thus, we could also be back in this area relatively quickly. It was tested as well, but then the Bible day came, and unfortunately, it didn't continue. Further downwards. Let's briefly look at the daily view again. Yes, even there, we are already in a certain support area. There has always been movement. So let's say around 2251. This is a certain range where something has always happened. Also back here, a retest rejection upwards. Rejection downwards, smooth, rise upwards. So that would be the next support area that I personally see, where one could say, okay, there it is. Volume could possibly be targeted. It also looks strongly like that. But let's wait and see. Moving on to XRP, our symmetrical triangle. Unfortunately, we have completely left it downwards. As I said, yesterday it looks like we are breaking through downwards here. Of course, it could have nicely gone in the other direction here as well, but the strength was lacking. And even here, it's getting thin now, because if we should leave this support area here, let's say roughly around $2.08, then it could very easily be that we fall into the zone of around 1, let's say approximately 1.60, 150, could fall downwards. We hope not, but here too was a stronger area with movement. Lastly, a quick look at Solana. So I can tell you at this point, this is also my biggest headache position. What a surprise, the blockchain has always picked up everything possible in some form. It started with the Memecoin scams, then the negative market movement also came. So everything plays a part in it. Then, of course, the token distributions, which are also to be assessed negatively, it's crazy. The only thing that really looks good, you have to say, is when you look at the RSI. I have now specifically drawn this line. We rarely had such a low value. And that could possibly finally trigger a bullish impulse. But yes, we also have to keep an eye on that now. Otherwise, all in all, it really looks bleak at the moment. We must not forget that even in the last bull runs, there were phases where Bitcoin corrected massively, sometimes by 40 or even 50% before it continued upwards. I don't wish for this scenario either, just to be clear. But theoretically, it would fit into the history purely from a historical perspective. We can now wait and see what happens. Feel free to write in the comments what you think, what your opinion is on this. Whether you are feeling more bullish or rather bearish, or if you can't stand the situation anymore. You can also notice that in the comments, and I don't want to say that it's a good sign, but only when people are really scared, when volume disappears from the market, that's usually when the market makers are willing to say, now we start, because now we've made the maximum amount of money. So, we'll see. We should wait and see for now. Otherwise, if you liked the video, it would be super nice if you could just leave a quick free like. It also supports my work. And finally, I can give you the tip to check out this video. It sounds incredible, but on March 12th, everything could change. And what could change, why, and how I can now look into the crystal ball, you'll find out in this video. We'll see each other tomorrow. See you then. Bye.